Hello, YouTube. So I am just sort of making a bunch of batch videos today, which, if you're wondering why I'm wearing the exact same thing, now you know. So I thought I would re-record a video that I filmed a little while ago. I think maybe back in May or April. And I really wanted to sort of redo my old video on my top 5 books on witchcraft. So here you go. By the way, I have no idea why this is just sitting there in the box, but okay. All right, so the first book on my recommendation is my recommendation really I can't English today. So so the first book I am recommending, it's the number one spot on my short list of 5 books, and it's been there for 20 years at least. 21 years um, that I've been a witch, and it is Laurie Cabot's Power of the Witch. If you have never read this book, I strongly recommend it. It has been just a phenomenal resource book. It really is. Even if you don't personally agree with Laurie's choice of wording, of her personal style, I don't agree with her take on history. There are 2 chapters in this book that are worth the cost of the book alone, and that is Science of Witchcraft and Alpha. So 2 chapters in this book are worth the cost of the book alone. As you can see, I have a hardback edition, which I intentionally bought a couple years ago because I had loaned out and given away all my softcover editions, and this book meant so much to me that I went out and bought a near mint condition hardback edition. So it has a proud place in my library, and it will for many, many years to come. The second book on my list is Stephen Crowley's Wicca, the Old Religion in the New Age, and it is an unparalleled book in many ways. It is, in my opinion, the natural companion to Laurie Cabot's book, Power of the Witch, whereas this really focuses on witchcraft as a practicum, as well as a religion, more so as a practicum. But it goes at length into a discussion of quantum physics and quantum mechanics and how that can be used to explain witchcraft to those who, like myself, are more left brain. Crowley's Wicca is it's just a phenomenal read. It's more towards Wicca as a religion than Power of the Witch is. Yet it also discusses raising power and using power, the making of magic. It doesn't really discuss the crafting of spells per se, but it does have a really great chapter on the history of modern witchcraft that I think will interest anyone who does not personally agree with Laurie Cabot's view of the history of witchcraft. Crowley was herself actually vilified by Professor Ronald Hutton in his early treatise, The Pagan Religions of the Ancient British Isles, for daring to disagree with the conclusions of his hero Norman Cohn, who and he has really, and Professor Hutton has really never apologized to Crowley or to Margot Adler for having vilified them when he had the chance. Margot Adler has, of course, recently passed away, and she didn't even know that Professor Hutton had said such nasty things about her in his books. Really, the strong point of this book is it goes into great depth with regard to the concept of the goddess, the concept of the god within the craft, as well as the three stages of initiation are extremely well written up. You know, they go into these chapters go into extreme depth with regard to the different stages of initiation and their psychological meaning. I cannot say enough good things about this book. If you have never read it, if you've only seen it and thought, I'll pass it by, go back and buy that book. It's good. You'll like it. I promise. Finally found it. Wait, what number am I? 3. Yeah, the third book in my top 5 countdown of Wade's top 5 recommended reading material books list. Whatever. Is Hunt and Stuart Farrar's The Witch's Way. It is a golden oldie, a classic, and if you've noticed so far, I've not yet mentioned any book past like 1989. All of the books I've mentioned so far have been, from the 1980s, and none of them so far have been from the 1990s, and there's a very good reason for that. The vast majority of books published after 1990 is dreck. It's largely not worth your time. Most modern authors are writing to be a career writer rather than writing works of substance, and I think that's a mistaken path to take because it puts really profit above people in a certain sense. I was reading an interview with an author who not only told a friend of mine that he could make more money by encouraging followers when he met up with him at a Heartland Pagan Festival, but when he was asked in an interview, which was published in a book, how he might overcome problems with one's students. Now, to my mind, that question brought up the concept of the coven. How do you deal with students within a coven that have become problematic in some sense? Unfortunately, the author being interviewed saw quite differently, and his response was to hold as few free classes as possible because those willing to start problems will be less likely to pay to play. I was really let down by that response. It came across as very capitalist in a sense, as being as though witchcraft is about making money for that author in question, and that was extremely unfortunate. With few exceptions, I generally don't recommend books published, past like 1990, especially certainly not past like the mid 90s. But moving on, the fourth book in my top 5 list is, of course, Janet Stewart Farrar's earlier book, 8 Sabbaths for Witches, which was combined with their later book, The Witch's Way, and published as The Witch's Bible Complete, which is a title they absolutely hated. I believe it was first published that way by Herman Slater, and it was then picked up and published with that same title by their American publishers, if I recall correct. It's from a very British traditional Wiccan perspective, which includes folk dramas, which is fine. My rituals tend to be a little more liturgically based, but this is a great example of another approach to the Sabbats. It is still a golden classic in the subject. It will explain in great detail the meanings, the myths behind the Sabbats that I believe is fairly important. It also explores the source material that the authors use in constructing some of their Sabbat rituals. Oh my God, this book right here, I wish this book had been published years ago, back when I was first starting out. This book was published in 2003, but I wish it had been published, decades beforehand. It is Deborah Lipp's The Elements of Ritual. Get this book if you've passed it by. Get this book if you've only heard of it. Get this book. Oh my God. It is a phenomenal resource. Just an engrossing study that discusses the elements placed in every part of a ritual that you can imagine. It's just a phenomenal book. Have I said phenomenal already? It's just phenomenal. What are you waiting for? Stop watching this video. Go out, buy the book. It discusses a lot of procedures within the circle casting process that no book, to my knowledge, had discussed until this point. I have seen witches doing this, but I had yet to see any traditionally trained witch put it into print. So for that reason alone, it's just a phenomenal book. I cannot think of any other word to describe it but phenomenal. It discusses what the circle is, what the magic circle is, how it's erected, the who, what, where, when, and why. It discusses the concept of idol worship, of which I'm a big fan. There is just so much juicy material in this book that even if you are a solitary practitioner, you will still benefit a lot from this book. Yeah, go out, buy this book. Unfortunately, it is one of the few books by Deborah Lipp that I do recommend because we don't happen to agree on terms of history. She thinks I'm a fool and a complete moron for not accepting all of Professor Hutton's views. I think she is a little foolhardy herself for so uncritically endorsing them. That's just where we butt heads a little bit, which is fine. I don't think everyone should agree. The world would be a really boring place if everyone agreed like that. So I'm really glad that we do have our differences, but also our agreements. When she writes something awesome, I will be right out there waving my flag saying, "Go Deb!" We don't always agree on everything, and I'm grateful for that. So this has been my Wade's top 5 books. So let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. And until next time, keep calm and witch on. They're saying witch strong. Is that really a thing? Do you think? No? Maybe? I would like to recommend one of my favorite books on herbal magic. It was written by my friend Anna Franklin with someone that she knows named Susan Lavender. And it is called Herbcraft, a guide to the shamanic and ritual uses of herbs. It was published by Capital Band